Hello, everybody. Happy to be here. My name is Andrew Townley, and I'm the founder and Chief Executive of Archistry. And what I do is I help the Global 500 build effective, value-driven security programs. I've written 3 books on security architecture, AI effectiveness, and organizational value delivery through security alignment. And I'm a SABSA certified architect and an Amplio consultant educator and agile coach. So today, what I'm going to talk to you about is really why we struggle with cyber resilience. Let's go ahead and get started. But before we do, as Shilpa mentioned, this is the 3rd talk in a series. So I want to give you a quick recap of what we talked about before. So in case you haven't watched the previous talks, you might not have the right baseline to understand what I'm saying and what I'm about to say. But if you haven't watched the previous talks, I would certainly urge you to go and do so. But just to make sure we're all on the same page, I want to give you a quick recap of the ideas that I shared in the previous 2 talks. And don't worry, I won't give you the ending or the spoilers, so it's still worth going back and looking at the previous talks. So the first talk was why security fails even when doing everything right. And the main things there was that our current definition of security success really results in us doing endless prevention. And that's one of the reasons that we struggle to make any headway and progress in security. The other thing was that we attempt to prove security value with evidence of activity instead of actually proof that we're doing anything useful that anybody cares about. We track things, we measure things, we talk about all the things that we block, all of the incidents that we close, but in real terms, in business terms, that isn't always what is really meaningful in terms of what security is doing for the organization. And then the last thing is that, well, what we've really done as an industry is set security up to be an impossible task that we can't win anyway, no matter how hard we try and no matter how smart people are and how hard they work. So that was the 3 critical ideas from the first talk. And the second talk was reimagining cybersecurity in the age of digital transformation. So what are we talking about here? Well, the key insight that we need to keep in mind is that the core job of security is actually to prevent change. That's not what we're told, that's not what we try and do, but in effect, that's the actual impact that we tend to have. And the problem is that the objective of digital transformation is continual change. So as you can see, there's some friction there by design. And that's the problem, because security is currently delivering friction by design. It's the way we're set up, it's the way we're organized. And if we want to do things differently, we need to really kind of look at some of these fundamental assumptions that we have about what we do and how we do it and how we're organized. Otherwise, we're not going to do anything except push harder and add more and more friction. So those were the key 6 critical ideas of the first talk. And all of those lead us to cyber resilience. Now, we've been talking about cyber resilience for more than a decade, but have we actually managed to deliver it? I mean, that's the question. The answer is, in my view, no. In fact, the evidence says we're even less resilient than ever, with even less time to react when bad things happen. And so we really need to ask ourselves, well, why is this? And it comes back to what I alluded to from the previous talks. We're doing exactly what we've been told to do. We've gotten extremely good at doing what we've been told security should be doing. And that's what we talked about before. But I can't stress this enough, because this is really the core problem. If you are told you are supposed to do something, then you believe that doing that is what you're supposed to do, and that if you do it hard enough or well enough or often enough, that you're going to get the results that people tell you you're supposed to get. But we aren't. I mean, that is the problem. In security, we're doing everything that we've been told to do, and yet we still have more and more breaches. We have millions of smart, dedicated, hardworking people in security trying every day to do the right thing, and yet we're still failing to deliver resilience in a meaningful way to the organizations we're trying to enable and protect. So again, why is that? Well, we need to go back to first principles and definitions of things. And this is the definition that kind of adapts most of what people think about when they think and talk about cyber resilience. And this comes from NIST and the PNNL publications about cyber resilience that are quite popular, and what a lot of people use as the basis of their cyber resilience programs. So if we look at what they say is cyber resilience is the ability to prepare for, withstand, recover from, and adapt to cyber attacks and disruptions. Okay, I mean, that sounds reasonable. I mean, it is cyber after all, and so, we know there are going to be attacks, and we know we're not going to be able to prevent them all, and so this sounds perfectly reasonable. But where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us with an understanding of our job in security of this impossible task that I mentioned before. We have this interconnected graph of things, threats and risks and tools and exceptions and controls and policies, alerts and frameworks, and they're expanding all of the time. And we keep talking about the ever increasing threat environment and now AI, and how we've had fully autonomous AI ransomware attacks, and it's just, how can we keep up? We need to just do better, because we know what we're supposed to be doing, but it's just never enough. So we've got this idea of this is what the job is, and that leads us to thinking in terms of infrastructure. So we've got our services and our networks and our platforms and our data and file systems and things like that. Then we've got all these bad actors, and then we've got all these things that those bad actors are going to do that are going to threaten our infrastructure. And so if that's the case, then all we need to do is draw a box around it and make that box secure. And that's what security has been for thousands of years, from the dawn of history. You make a wall around something and you try and keep the bad people out. And with zero trust, we've just tried to make that wall small and small and small and small, but it's the same core philosophy. The problem is that if that's what we're focused on, we've got to build this wall and we've got to make these things robust and secure and whatever. The result is, we kind of get sidetracked in the weeds. So if we are initially given something that looks like a bicycle, hey, a bicycle isn't quite as resilient as a car. And a car, that's not really always going to do the job either. So what we really need is a tank. And we look at these things that we're trying to protect, and we think that, we're increasing the resilience by making bigger, better, stronger, faster, whatever things. And that is the mentality, because again, our focus is on cyber, and that's where we live. And if we just protect the cyber, then our job is done and everything else will work itself out. But that's not really what's happening, and that's not really how it works. That's where the friction comes from that I mentioned before. So we need to understand, where are we doing this kind of, almost gold plating in terms of some cases? Because if we're focusing on enhancing and hardening and doing things and in the wrong place, then as much as it's uncomfortable for us to admit, then maybe that's actually what we're doing. So we need to look at, where does this happen? So, it's supposed to happen in secure by design, right? We've been told that security was always brought in too late. So we've got, DevOps to enhance delivery flow and reduce friction. And so we need security in there. So we've got DevSecOps, and then we just shifted everything left. And then we've all solved the problem, because, we've got security embedded in the teams. We've got security embedded in our CD pipelines. So we're sorted, right? Well, let's look. So these are 14 steps of software delivery that I've kind of abstracted in a general case. And I do a lot of work with organizations doing still traditional waterfall type development, but also agile development. But if you kind of stand back and squint, these are the kinds of key activities that need to happen no matter what delivery method you're doing. And so you've got everything from, on the left, the idea, customer journey, conceptual solution, and then you define your value increment that you're going to deliver to prove that, you're on the right track and get feedback and whatever, all the way down to, okay, we've got our detailed design and we've got our configurations for our deployment in cloud or wherever, and we write the code and then we do the tests and we've got our packages and we push it to production, right? Well, so where does security go? How far left did we really go? And the answer tends to be, well, we start at detailed design because that's our sprints and that's where security starts looking at things and that's where we do our threat modeling and whatever. But okay, so where is the design? Well, the design starts all the way back to the left. So if we are trying to talk about resilience, then how can we talk about resilience when the things that we're trying to make resilient are the things? I mean, we look at the individual pieces and not how the overall system works, because it doesn't matter how resilient any one component is if that component is not accessible or if that component can't deliver what it's supposed to do to actually achieve whatever business result is supposed to happen. Then does our tank matter? And no, the answer is no. So what all this means then is that we still end up focusing on primarily incident response. I mean, if you strip away all of the talk and you look at the actual work that's done, most security programs still revolve around incident response. We may talk about embedding into design and things like that, but most of the time it's still that's kind of, here's your list of controls, and so we've ticked the box that we're part of delivery and then we just go on. But what does this really look like? Well, we pretend to be proactive because we say we're prepared, or we're scanning the environment, or we're scanning the things as they are part of the CD pipeline, and then we discover gaps. So then we say, hey, developers, you need to remediate these gaps, or hey, vendor or infrastructure team or whomever, you've got these problems and you need to fix them. And then they don't, or those gaps get exploited, and then we have fires to fight, and then we deploy new controls, and then we just kind of repeat this cycle. And this cycle, as proactive as we would like to think it is, it's really just still reactive. And I call this reactive cycle that we're stuck in the security pinwheel of doom, because once we're on it, it takes a lot to get off of it. And the real problem is that the $220 billion industry that we built says, well, if we're doing this, we're doing the right thing in security. And that is a problem. But what is it that we don't ask? Well, there are some key questions that keep us locked on this security pinwheel of doom that we tend to not ask. And the first one of those is, well, what is the job? Now, if my job was to deliver groceries or something along this European street that is basically wide enough for two people to walk next to without bumping shoulders or the wall, which is the right tool for the job? The $8 million tank or the $200 bicycle? And if we are focusing on resilience of the thing, which are we going to build? Are we going to build the bicycle or are we going to build the tank? And that's the disconnect. We don't actually ask what the job is. We're told, deliver this component, or you need to deliver this, and therefore it must be a solution, and it must be cloud, or it must be this kind of infrastructure. And therefore, because it's this kind of infrastructure, then we need to make it hard and robust and big and resilient and whatever. But is that really the right tool for the job? The next thing we don't really ask is, okay, so what's really at risk? Is it the thing, or is it the thing that the thing we're trying to make resilient actually does? What is the value to be delivered? Because if we don't ask this question, our organization ends up with its own version of the tragic Ariane flight B-88 from June 1996. Now, if you aren't familiar with this, it was one of the most kind of publicized errors of programming in history, because this rocket was built to put two spacecraft in order to do some sort of atmospheric and a measurement from space, right? But what ended up happening was 30 seconds of flight time, thanks to one unhandled C++ exception, and poof went a $370 million rocket. And most people start there. I mean, they stop there. They say, oh yeah, okay, well, C++ is bad because of it blew up the $370 million rocket, but that's not the whole story. The whole story is the 4 years in opportunity cost of delays of getting the data that those satellites were supposed to deliver. Because the first ones blew up, and it actually took 4 years to build the new ones and then find launch vehicles to put them into orbit, which had nothing to do with the ESA space program. They went on Soyuz rockets and I think somewhere else. But the cost, and this is what I talked about in the previous talk as well, we don't measure the opportunity cost of delay. We think, okay, well, the material cost of the rocket and the spacecraft and whatever was $370 million, and that's what the real cost is. No, that's the material cost of whatever happens. The opportunity cost is, well, what did we not get for the time period until we got it back? And that's the 4 years of scientific data that we can't ever get back. I mean, we can start the clock 4 years later, but that 4 years that we were supposed to have data, that's gone. It's gone forever. And that is really the value that is at risk in every case. We have 8 to 12 weeks by default of delays on every major delivery project for digital transformation in most organizations. And those 8 to 12 weeks are things we don't get back. The revenue that it was supposed to generate, the customers that it was supposed to acquire, the customers that it was supposed to serve for those 8 to 12 weeks. And that's millions of dollars for the average Global 500 organization. And it's just gone forever. That's what I talk about in the Invisible Crisis book that I wrote. So, okay, that's bad, right? We blew up the rocket. What is our reflex? Well, our reflex is, well, we need more. We need more people. We need more checks because, damn it, we didn't actually do the right thing. We didn't have enough tools. We didn't have enough people. We didn't have enough process. We didn't have enough, eyes on it or whatever. And so then we glom on more stuff, and that more stuff makes it heavier and heavier. But is that really a resilient solution? No, that just makes us more brittle, and it makes us the friction that we experience even harder. So what is the resilient solution? Well, the resilient solution is actually less. We take things away, and then we figure out what can fail, and we contain that failure by design. So let's look at the alternative approach. So we've got the Lockheed Martin F-35. They cost $100 million per unit on average, depending on the configuration. There's 8 million lines of code for the onboard flight and mission systems, and there is 0 unhandled C++ exceptions possible in that software. Why? Because the system designers created an environment that limited the capabilities of C++ that could be used to deliver that software so that they would never have the kind of failure that caused the rocket to explode. Because what happened is they didn't design for that exception in the rocket, and somewhere down deep, probably in some library that nobody thought about, threw an exception, and nobody expected exceptions to be thrown, so it was not caught, and then it cascaded all the way up, and boom, no more rocket, right? But to get this kind of resilience, did Lockheed implement more controls, more gates, or more assurance? No. They said, we are going to design the environment, and we are going to ensure that that environment is sufficient enough that we understand how it can fail, and we understand how far a failure can cascade before bad things happen. And that's what I mean by containment by design. It makes particular types of failures either impossible to occur, or that you know that they're going to occur, and you understand exactly what you can do and how far they can propagate. And that's actually what it means to deliver cyber resilience. And they made these choices before a single line of code was written. So that wasn't at the detailed design stage. That was way over here on the left when they had the idea of, hey, we've got a really sophisticated fighter. We don't want them blowing up because of some software error. What are we going to decide we need to do? And that's a design decision. And, it's certainly not revert to last known good, because last known good was the rocket before it exploded. Getting back there took 4 years, and that was just for the things that mattered. Like I said, It wasn't 4 years to build another rocket. It was 4 years to recreate the satellites that were supposed to be there, redo all of that work, find the people, get them back, the resources that were already spent, that everybody expected to be enough, and then suddenly your costs are doubled and the time is, longer, and all of these things, because getting that thing into orbit was what mattered. This was undermined by a problem in the delivery vehicle, but there was only one way, right? So there was a single point of failure in getting that into orbit, and maybe that's all you can do. Maybe that's the limitations of your environment. But if that's the case, then you need to take control of that environment as much as possible so that you make sure that things don't blow up. But we think in security, when something bad happens, well, we just revert to last known good. We get measured on mean time to recover and restore, right? Well, what are we recovering and restoring to? We're not recovering and restoring to today. We're recovering and restoring to some point before today. And in this case, it's pretty obvious. Do you think the world was the same in 2000 as it was when the satellites were designed in 1996? No. And I was around, and I can assure you that it wasn't. I know some of you may not have been, but big difference in terms of what was available and what it is. And yet, this is what we do on a smaller scale every time. So last known good is not good enough anymore when we talk about digital transformation. By the time you reverted, you've undone things that were supposed to already be delivering value, that people already depend on or have already coded to, and then you've got to scramble to figure out, okay, well, how do I get those things supported when I wasn't expecting to need to do that because my checkpoint said that those weren't required, but then the world had moved on and I'm out of sync. So this is the problem. This is why we have to get off the security pinwheel of doom and get out of, this recovery story for resilience, because it's just not good enough. Cyber resilience isn't actually about cyber at all. It's about the infrastructure and systems that we have and making sure that those are going to still ensure value delivery happens regardless of what happens to them. It's about the value delivery. It's not about the cyber or the infrastructure. And if we don't start thinking about the environments we operate in and how things can fail, then we're going to continue to have our own rockets explode every day, just like we do today. 38% year-on-year increase in CVEs last year. Who knows what it's going to be this year? We assume we can control an environment and build an environment where things will not fail. And we end up building security in terms of not security by design or security and defense in depth. We end up with, prevention by design and prevention in depth, because that's where we put all of our eggs. And we've got our recovery stuff and we try to do that, but we're not prepared because we haven't designed for resilience. We've designed for processes to get us back to last known good. And like I said, last known good isn't good enough in digital transformation. We need to design the value delivery environments that will succeed even when things fail, because they will. And they'll fail when we least expect it and when it's most inconvenient for us. And yet, what are we doing? We're still designing for tanks. We say we're cyber security, and therefore the cyber is where the problem needs to be solved. Well, let me tell you, we can't solve the cyber problem because we don't control the cyber. We don't control the environment. We don't control how the pieces of infrastructure we depend on are built. We don't control how the code is written. We rely on third-party libraries from, all and sundry that nobody ever looks at. And all we do in each of those cases is, again, reactive response. Oh, something broke. We've got an alert. We fix it. We go back and we try and react to it rather than saying, no, it's not about tanks. It's about actually designing for the right solution for the reality that we live in, which is anything around us that we depend on can fail at any point. So we need to completely rethink things. So instead of tanks, we need to talk about like drones. That's the analogy here. And if you look at what happens in, conflict zones around the world right now, that's what's making the difference, because people have actually done what needs to be done. And what I'm asking you to do when it comes to security, it's not more of the same. It's actually about rethinking the problem we're trying to solve and admitting the environmental realities that we're faced with. We don't control our infrastructure. As soon as we bring something inside, it's not inside a protect zone anymore. It's still a bomb waiting to go off when whatever assumptions we have about it doing the right thing fail. And that just means it's inside our perimeter and we think it's trusted, and then we're surprised when it breaks, because we haven't designed for the reality of the environment in which we operate. And because we haven't, when our cyber stuff fails, the organization's delivery of value also fails too. Because we're not doing this. We are not thinking differently about the problems that we need to solve. And so, if we're going to fix it, we need to understand why. And the real reason comes down to this perfect quote from Edgar Schein that I love. I learned this from my friend Al Shalloway a few years ago, and I had never heard it before, but it explains a lot of things. What he says is, we don't think and talk about what we see what we think and talk about. And this is pretty deep when you actually think about it, and you can see examples of this in your life all the time. But let's apply it to security. What do we think and talk about? Well, we think and talk about, this is the job. We've got this impossible job to do. We've got threats, risk, tools, and we got to keep up with all this stuff all the time. We've got to build new controls every time anything changes. And we don't actually step back far enough and say, is there a way that I can allow the things that change all the time to change all the time without actually being overwhelmed and lost and having to change the world every time some new thing comes along? The answer to that is yes, I do it all the time. But that's not how we're set up in the industry. We're set up in the industry to stay on the security pinwheel of doom, because we're always chasing what's changed. What do we need to block next? What does how does this now make us more vulnerable than we were before? And AI and the release of Mythos and all of this is just the latest example of how what we think and talk about shoves us into this trough of, okay, well, if that's what we're thinking and talking about, then this is the problem to solve. And it shifts us away from the real problem that we need to solve. And that's where we get in trouble. So we see threats, we see threat actors, we see infrastructures, we see that we need to draw protect surfaces around these infrastructures, and we need to manage those. And because that's what we are told we need to manage, and that's what we get graded on, then we keep thinking that, well, we need tanks. I mean, look at any maturity model. And theoretically, the whole point of the maturity model was so that you could look at areas of your program and you could say, well, in this area, level 2 is good enough. But the way that we're presenting and we're managing to these maturity models, you tell some senior manager that you're only going to do 2 out of 5, they're going to ask you why. And so that leads us right back into building tanks, because it's got, they're asking, why are we not doing 5? We got to deliver 5, and then we've got a tank when we need drones. So what is it that we need to see? Well, we need to see quite clearly, what does the organization actually want? What is it trying to accomplish? Not from us, but from their perspective. And then we need to go backwards and we say, okay, well, what things must be true in order to get that? What are the invariant things that if any one of those is not there, we will absolutely not get what the organization wants? This is not how we're taught to think normally. It's not how we're taught to plan, but again, this is something I learned from Russ Lakoff, and it's an application of his interactive design or interactive planning, which is idealized design and interactive planning are sort of 2 parts of the same thing, but it's you start from what you want and you work backwards. So What is it that we need to think and talk about in order to do this? Well, we need to think and talk about outcomes. What kind of outcomes? Customers retained, markets served, products shipped, customers acquired, jobs done, revenue, profits. Everything we do in security is done so the organization can do something. And if we can't reliably and directly relate what we do to some business outcome, then of course people are going to push back on the budget that we ask for, or the people we ask for, or the tools we want to buy, or whatever it is, because they can't see why it makes a difference. It's just, frivolous spend as far as they're concerned. And we get mad at them because they don't get it, but yet we can't explain why it's important other than, well, we need this because it's best practice and the industry says this and these are the nature of the threats. And okay, yeah, but what's the outcome? Oh, well, it's going to be, we're not going to get breached. Well, we know that's a lie. I mean, that's like optimistic at best these days. It's going to happen. And we still think that we can keep it from happening. So we're going to still struggle, and we're still going to impede digital transformation because we have the wrong idea about what resilience really takes. So where do we start with this? Well, the first thing we need to do is redefine security. We talked about this last time or the time before, and my definition of security is quite different than the industry standard definition because mine's focused on outcomes. And it is the degree of confidence that you're going to get what you want. And you can apply this definition of security to anything you want. You can apply it to billions of dollars in revenue. You can apply it to getting to work on time or whatever you want. And that's really when you feel secure, you are confident that nothing is going to stop you from getting you what you want. It's not about controls. It's not about CIA. Those are all kind of implementation details that we've latched onto because it's been easier to latch on to the infrastructure and the things than it is to kind of pay attention to business because, well, that's a business thing and I'm technical or I'm security and I don't need to worry about that. I just want to, break things and write code or manage networks or infrastructure and whatever. We need those specialists. But if that's all we are, then we're never going to solve resilience because we're just going to keep building tanks. We're going to make those things individually as robust as possible when we need to get down the narrow street and the thing we built won't fit. And then we're going to get chewed out because we spent all this money and we can't do what the organization needs. And then they're going to go around us and then we're going to bitch at them and say, well, you shouldn't do this. Yeah, but I gave you the money. This was the job. You built something that doesn't work. What do you expect me to do? I've made promises. I have to deliver. This is just normal. And we need to start looking at what we're trying to do and how we're trying to go about getting it in terms of the things that people want and how confident they are. When we do, it changes everything. And that opens up the opportunity for us to do containment by design. So how do we do that? Well, we take our what must be true, and then we say, well, okay, if those things need to be true, how can they fail to be true? And this is where we get into what I believe are the core 3 operational risks that we need to worry about, because everything else that we chase and we talk about in every other aspect of risk comes down to these 3 things. And I've been thinking about this for 20 years, and I've distilled it down to these 3 things. And I can prove in any conversation that these 3 things sit under any type of risk you really want to talk about. So the first thing is, well, something I need is not there. The second one is, well, what I got, it doesn't work. It doesn't meet my expectations. It doesn't work the way I expected it to do, or it works and it seems like it's the right thing, but it does these sort of things that I don't expect. It exfils data, or it, poisons my environment, or it does something else that's going to hurt me, or something that I actually care about. And then the last one is, okay, everything I have, I need, I got it, it works, it's exactly the way I wanted it, but for whatever reason, I don't work it. I can't use it. I don't use it when I'm supposed to, I don't apply it exactly the way, or I'm supposed to do it 10 times and I only do it 3 because, well, it's hard and I get tired and then I forget or whatever. But those are the 3 failure points of anything that we need to be true to get anything we want. That's it. And if we can manage those, then we're really on path for actually doing containment by design and delivering real resilience. So the next thing is, okay, well, if those are the failures, what can we do when it does? Because if we can't manage those failures, then it doesn't matter how they're caused. It could be space aliens, it could be vendors, it could be people, it could be anything. But it's not about how they happen, it's about what of those things happened that I can't afford to happen, and can I do something about those or not? Now, you might not be able to do something about it because I might need a whole new data center, or I might need a whole new set of millions of customers. That's not going to be easy to do, and it's not going to be cheap. But if you know that that's what you need, and you make a decision that says, I'm not going to do this, then it's recorded. That is a risk appetite decision that you have recorded, and anybody who asks you about it, okay. And when the problem happens, and that's the fallback, we talked about this. This is the decision that was made. Everybody agreed this was okay. And now we're out of business because we didn't have a fallback. These are the discussions that we need to have, because this is where resilience starts. We need to understand what we can and can't do for the things that we must have in order to get what we want. And then we can prioritize things around prevention, detection, response, and whatever. But it's no good for us to enumerate infinity and try and worry about all that and run around like headless chickens in this ever-increasing threat environment when 80% of those actually cause the same impact, and it's distracting us from understanding that these 10 things are the things that I actually have to have if I'm going to get what I want. And ensuring that we can do those 10 things, that's what cyber resilience is really about. So how do we do this? Well, it turns out that we can look at all of the different levels of infrastructure and technology, all the way from what we want as an outcome and the people and everything that's needed for that. And we can look at these different dimensions of containment. So we can contain it in value delivery, which is the most important. Then we can talk about team and people and redundancy, and then we've got behavioral and task things, and then service and microservice containment, and then compute and infrastructure, platform, purpose containment, physical containment, and then temporal containment as well. So how much time do I have before I'm out of business? And it doesn't really matter anymore. So this is how we apply the same things that we know how to do already, because we've got the tools. We know how to do this. We're just lost because we're trying to boil the ocean of infinity and chase everything that happens, instead of focusing on the things that matter, that will ensure that we are truly resilient. Because what cyber resilience actually means is how resilient we are is the degree of confidence that we have that we can still deliver our business outcomes people expect under the inevitable infrastructure failures and stress that will happen. We try to prevent those failures and stress, and then we are surprised when they happen. That is actually very different than what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is admitting that those things are going to happen, and then designing for that, where, okay, it's okay. It's just, I go to the store and I replace it, or I just close that off and I use this one, or whatever it is. But that is a totally different mindset. It is a totally different organizational dynamic in terms of what happens when things go wrong. Because if you've done it from a containment by design point of view, you have ensured resilience. You can prove it on paper to anybody by walking back exactly what you've got in. And so when things happen, okay, things happen. Whereas today, things happen, oh my God, what do we do? We get the playbook's out of date. Oh no, we don't have enough people. Oh, this configuration changed from the last, and then we're in panic mode and we get crushed. And the business is rightly upset. So what we need to understand if we want to actually reimagine cybersecurity in the age of digital transformation completely and totally, and what the whole arc of these 3 talks has been about, is that it's not about cyber. It's about understanding the minimal requirements necessary to ensure value delivery actually happens and designing for that reality, and then doing the jobs that we already know how to do in that context in a relaxed and predictable way. And it changes everything. It really and truly does. And so I hope that this has been useful and valuable to you. And the thing I would really ask you is to just kind of think about this. I know you may not initially agree with it because it's different than what you've heard, but the only way that we're going to get a different outcome is by thinking and talking about different things than we are talking about today, so that we see different opportunities and we see options for doing things that we have never seen before, because that's what it's going to take. Because we're still doing security like it's 1995, and we're surprised that we're not getting anywhere. And until we change what we're doing, that's the reality we're going to have to live with. And if you are happy with that and think that you just need to try harder, then that's okay. But if you aren't, then it's time to kind of challenge some of these fundamental assumptions about why we're doing some of the things we're doing, so that we can take what we know and apply it in the right place. Well, it's kind of what the best practice for cyber resilience is focusing on what I was just talking about. It's understanding what the organization needs to be resilient in order to get the outcomes that they want, and then prioritizing and applying what we already know how to do in security to those things specifically, rather than focusing on all the things that we can't control. Unfortunately, most of the cybersecurity resilience best practice that's out there right now is focused on building tanks, based on making the things resilient, as opposed to the outcomes those things support resilient. And that is the fundamental shift. So the best practice is actually focusing on the outcomes rather than on the cyber, when you start thinking and talking about resilience, and that changes the game entirely. Yes, absolutely. Resilience is the only way that we are going to be able to measure cybersecurity success. We still need prevention. But what we built and the way we're thinking about security is that 80 or 90%, if you look at and classify the controls in any control library, like ISO 27000 or the CSF or even the CIS controls or whatever, it doesn't matter, NIST 853, the majority of those are actually preventative controls, because we find problem and then we say we need a control for that problem, and then we lose track of, well, okay, but what is the outcome that we're trying to manage? And so we get lost in the controls, and primarily those controls are prevention. So we unfortunately believe that prevention first is the right way, and it hasn't been for a long time. The organizations that are really successful and that are able to withstand incidents and breaches the best, they have indirectly or directly been focusing on resilience for a long time. We just need to acknowledge that the gist of what we have been told we need to do in that, getting lost on the security pinwheel of doom, is not good enough. And so, it's not that we don't need prevention anymore, but if we start from resilience, we understand where to focus our prevention efforts, and we're prepared when those prevention controls fail. Well, the first way is that we need to change how security is engaging with and involved in defining those, strategies for delivering those business outcomes. And this is kind of, you could say, oh yeah, but shift left is supposed to fix that. But like I showed on the slide, it's more of a nudge than a shift. We need to be involved in a way where we're talking about risk when things are at the idea stage or the early design stage. And that, unfortunately, we don't have, we've got a lot of compartmentalized risk silos. We've got cyber risk, and then we've got, even within cyber, we've got our GRC function, and we've got our operations function, and our networks, and architecture, and it's all this fragmented, broken up, and nobody talks to each other, and nobody really understands how it all kind of aggregates, except, well, it kind of does, and then it rolls up, and that's as good as we get. So we need to have an acknowledgement in security that we need people who can kind of, bridge this gap. And we've talked about that for decades, and it's not happened. But if everybody who's doing security and deciding what security means for any engagement or, initiative or whatever starts asking, okay, well, what is it that we're really trying to protect here? What is the job that must be done? What is the outcome that must be delivered? What is that worth to the organization? Even those questions will change the dynamic of the communications between security and whomever security is talking to. So, and that's on us. We can't expect people to learn more cyber, or boards have more cyber expertise. That's a cop-out. We are not doing the job that we need to do if we can't explain to somebody why we are important or how we help them get what they want. And so I'm not saying everybody needs to be able to do that. Far from it. Like I said, we need our specialists. We need the people who, don't care about business and only focus on technology and whatever else. But we have a lot of those, and we don't have a lot of people who actually understand risk at an operational perspective when it comes to business delivery. And we need to have more of those people, because it actually crosses everything from strategy to, operational risk and compliance and DR, and I mean, it's all the same, but we have specialized compartments and we don't treat them as the same. So that's the biggest shift we need to make. I'd like to say yes. My experience is probably not for a while, until people really start to realize that, we're kind of in this cycle we need to break. And unfortunately, the problem is that every time we get knocked down, the industry says, oh, well, that's just part of the job, or, those are just, your badges of honor and scars for being in, and that's just how it is. If you can't handle it, then you're in the wrong profession. And you need to kind of have a little bit of that, because the job isn't easy. But when the answer is, well, you just need to do something else, or you just need another tool or whatever, and nobody actually asks, well, what the hell are we doing? And why are we doing it? And why are we doing it this way? And why are we doing it this way and it doesn't make any difference? Then that's a problem. So unfortunately, it takes a lot of people sort of banging their head against the wall enough that they get frustrated and start asking these questions. But the way the world is set up right now, those questions are not rewarded, or those questions are seen as too strategic or nice to have, or, well, we'll think about that when things settle down, because right now we've got these 50 fires. When in actual fact, it's like, okay, well, those 50 fires are because we didn't do this. And when we address those fires, maybe let's think about things this way in terms of containment, and then we can start making it so that we don't have to be reactive all the time, piece by piece. But you've got to have, a consistent mentality and view of what you're doing, even if you implement it in little pieces that are integrated into the way you do things today. So I would like to see that core changes I talked about would filter down into the way we're delivering software, but right now I'm not optimistic. There are organizations who are doing it. I've worked with several. There are others that I know of that I haven't worked with that are doing similar things, and so it is possible. But the momentum is against that kind of thinking right now in the industry, unfortunately. Well, this is really in terms of, it comes back to what I talked about in the previous talk in terms of the operational cost or the opportunity cost of delay. So how many times are you actually getting the results you expect when you expect to get them? And if you ask that question, that's actually the question boards care about. That's the question any of us care about. I mean, if we're doing anything at an individual, or if we're leading, Apple, it's the same question. We're doing something and we want it done when we expect it to be done, and we expect to get some sort of value out of doing it. And so every time we don't, then that is, we have a problem. But instead of measuring that and saying, well, bad on you and you failed and you are incompetent or whatever, we don't look at, well, why is this? What is the system that actually makes that the default path? So to your question, boards should measure resilience in terms of how often they actually meet their targets, in terms of delivery, in terms of the results that they expect. And then from a security point of view, how often when they did not, was that a security issue? And then if we're measuring those things, then every time that they do deliver, or we can show that we are getting closer and closer to delivering what we say we're going to deliver when we're saying we're going to deliver it from an organizational perspective, because again, that's what drives share prices, that's what drives investment, that's what drives customer trust, and all of these things, and adaptability. Because if I can say I want this objective and I have confidence that the organization is going to be able to reconfigure behind that in time, then I'm good. So we can start using the opportunity cost of delay idea to talk about resilience, and then talk about how security either helps deliver those things or where it's fallen short, and then we can look at how we can improve those things, but we can measure it. We can demonstrate that we are actually supporting resilient delivery in security or technology or wherever it is. I think, if we've never had a tougher job than we have right now in security. I mean, everybody is talking about all of the problems and all of the things that are overwhelming us, and keeping people awake and burning people out and everything else. And it is really down to, if we really were trying to do the right thing the right way, would that happen? And that is the question that I would urge you to ask yourself and make your decision about. So if the answer is yes, then by all means, go forth and do more, better, faster, whatever. But if the answer is maybe not, then think about some of the things that I've said today. Whether you do it that way, or you talk to me, or you don't talk to me, it's not the point. The point is, are we thinking about how to be effective in security in the reality we are in today, with AI, with digital transformation, with everything else? And are we getting the results we want? And if the answer is no, then maybe it's time to rethink a lot of things.